Hi everyone, today's February 16th and welcome to the Lifecycle working group. We have three topics today, but we will start with the eviction request due to time constraints. So we have a big news. Eviction request got merged with with 1 day exception, but we still managed to make it in. So that's great. Like we still got a couple of small things unresolved there, but the cap is merged, so we can work on these even like during the code freeze. So we have month and something until we need to get all the code in. So yeah, I can share my screen, right? Um, okay, so yes. The cap should the tracking issue should be updated. I already opened first PR for the APIs, but it's still in progress. But I already have like 2 or 3 topics or small points that we should discuss. So these came up like during the API review with Tim. So the first one is we still do not have a consensus on the name of the interceptor. So if people have opinions like how this should be named, like what feels most natural to you, like if you would like to see this. So to reiterate, the interceptor is the thing that responds to the eviction request that contains specific logic for example, eviction. So it could be like migrating the pod or terminating it in a special way. And we need to decide like if we want this entity to be called an interceptor or a handler or a responder. I see Lucy has her hand up,
Yes,
so please go ahead.
yes, sorry, I don't know how to do the hands up on this display, but one of the things I want to just bring up here is we have been using the word interceptor operationally for a very long time, and the criticism of the word interceptor has mostly been focused just on I don't like the word interceptor. There's not really been a positive nomination of, and this is much better. I haven't really seen end users or users come to us and say, oh, I would actually much prefer that this is called handler for A, B, C, X, Y, Z reasons. They've just kind of been thrown around as alternatives without much weight behind them. And so in my head, it feels like unless someone is going to positively nominate, this is better, and this is better for these reasons, and so this is, and it's therefore superior. I don't see much point in changing something that we have been effectively using as convention for months at this point, right? This is at least my opinion. If someone wants to put their hand up and say, actually, this verb is a much better verb and it's much better for these reasons, then honestly, fair enough. But I've not seen that. I've just seen I don't like interceptor because mostly it's just the wording. But that's, in my opinion, that's not strong enough to throw the whole thing into oh, we must find a new word, especially when we've tried to find a new word and there's not really an obvious choice that's like, because if there was, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Would have formed consensus on that. So TLDR is my view is unless someone comes up with a positive nomination for a much stronger word for certain reasons, I would just prefer to form consensus around the default, and the default to me is interceptor. That's my view.
Yeah, I can reiterate like a couple of points I said already to Tim. So for example, handler to me it seems like very generic and it's overused in so many like places when you are talking about requests like. And then you also mentioned a handler resource. To me, that would confuse even more things. And like originally I chose like the interceptor word because I know it like from aspect-oriented programming. I don't know if you are familiar with that, but it basically means that you have also like a project-wide entity that interacts and intercepts basically with some like API calls, and adds like special like behaviors or like data, I guess. So to me, it seems like quite natural to use it. But I suppose like yeah.
Maybe if we
Do
can call for if I is anyone else got like a different word they think here, or should we like call for consensus among at least the people in this call about that we go back and say we've talked about this a lot, all the leads were there, we were in the weekly meeting. The best word we could come up with was interceptor. And maybe just gently say, and if you have an alternative, give us the alternative that's better. Please. You'll be helping us a lot rather than us trying to find going on effectively fishing.
I mean, the only thing that occurs to me is like the other word that I'm seeing in the screen in front of me that we haven't used, which would be like eviction observer, which is coming right from the comments there. But it's like the same problem that Lucy just brought up. It's like, is that any better?
I would honestly say it's worse because observers sound passive to me.
Right,
But that's just
exactly.
my view.
It doesn't speak to the communication side of it, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Philip. I just cut you.
Yeah, I think like yeah, as you said, like we have a couple of options, but they don't sound so good to us, at least for now. So I would also say like let's call a consensus and like come back to the PR and say that unless somebody has very good reasons and better options to use, then we would like to go with an interceptor. And I think like it's it's important to coin it right now because we will be working on it, me and Johan, as far as I understand. And like we will use this word a lot in the code, and like doing like later refactorings is would be painful. So yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Let's call consensus on that. That actually brings you just brought naturally onto my next point, which is writing the code. So yes, this is Johan. This is the camera immediately pulled to me. Let me fix that quickly. Manual head of table wide. So this is Johan. Um so he is from the stateful compute platform team, and he's been doing a lot of work on our internal implementation of eviction request. I'm going to ignore that camera now. And so yeah, what I don't know how you want to do the how you two want to break up the code, but obviously that's between you, Philip, and Johan here. I know we set up a group chat. I don't know if you want to pair program it or divide and conquer. I don't particularly mind. I think that in my head, it's important. One of the comments Tim left on the KEP was he said, this was really close to the release deadline. I would much prefer to have an actual good time to look at this code. What is it? Before the code freeze, right? And so in my head, what he's implying is he wants to see code that's reviewable probably by the end of this month, right? I think with two people, I don't know how much capacity you have, Philip. I think with two people, that should be achievable, but please shout if you're wrong. And come in here, and then I'll keep talking on what else I was going
Yeah, like we should try to do that as fast as possible, like mainly due to review capacity. So as we know, there is like a ton of new features coming in each release, and like the sooner we can get this, the better. So yeah, as I said, like I opened the API PR, like this will be basically mostly like the APIs I already like coined in the cap, and I will add also the necessary validations, and then we can open a second one for the controller. So as far as I understand, you have like a working implementation, which is, I guess, not the same as we described in the cap, but we will try to basically morph it into the solution we would like to have. So I guess like we can open a second PR for the controller and can collaborate on things that need work. So like basically the main controller tests all the like controller bits we described in the cap, and yeah, and we can collaborate on like which things need done.
Okay, that makes sense. I can't remember the state our current control implementation's in, but I'd say it's a bit behind the KEP, but not too far. Your nodding
Yep.
indicates that's on the right track. Good. Yeah. Okay. Then yes, I set up a group chat between you, Philip, and Johan. If you two just want to collaborate in there and execute on that, however you guys decide to do the execution plan, I don't think any of us mind. We're very glad you're doing it. And then that sounds good. And maybe we should do a status. We can do a status check next weekly sync as well on how the code's coming along, if that works with everyone here.
Yeah, sure. Sounds great. Yeah, I will try to make the API as soon as possible, so it's easier to use in the code parts, so we can
Yeah.
reference it.
Okay,
Great.
that makes sense to me. Okay, cool. That's the main thing I wanted to bring up is just making sure this was kicked off.
Yeah, thanks, Johan, for offering your help. Okay, I still have one point about like the validation of the name of the interceptor. So I don't know like how you are planning to use this internally at Uber, but like the first important thing to me is like we need to like prevent basically conflicts between different projects or teams, organizations. So like the first thing I suggested was like to use like the fully qualified domain name. And now I think it should have like at least three segments like this, for example, .com, to have like more space and less chance of conflict. Yeah, Lucy.
That makes sense. I wonder, is this something we should enforce in the API though? Just from the POV of, is this something where what I guess your concern is if you don't do this, that someone's going to make an interceptor called like local or something obvious, and then someone else is going to make a similar interceptor called like local, and you're trying to force them to what is it? To take an opinion on what that name is. I don't know if this the debate I'm having in my head is, do we need to enforce this at the API level? Or do we need to say, if you are silly enough to make an interceptor with a name like example static string, then that was kind of on you because it's kind of like if you broke it, you buy it. I guess this makes sense from the POV of it's harder to misuse the system. If that exists, it's just another validation step. I don't know what API review thought about this. I know there was a whole back and forth between you and Tim about should it be a qualified domain name or not. I remember that. I don't think this came up in it, this whole free segment thing, but maybe I'm wrong.
No,
At
no,
least when I looked at the thread,
yeah, it did not. I think like Tim didn't mind having the domain name there, so that should be fine. We were mostly talking about having a path suffix. So I think I would like to enforce this like on the API level, since it's much better to start like with stricter validation. Like if you like see in the future that we don't need such strict validation, we can always make it less strict. So I guess like if you make a local interceptor, like it should be your problem, but the main issue arises when you have like a couple of projects that are working like great by themselves, but when you bring them together to one cluster, then they could start misbehaving, and not like the owner of the project might not notice that, but like the person deploying it might. So that's like the one issue I would like to to not have.
that makes a lot of sense. I don't think I have any particular issue with having a path suffix. I'm just thinking internally what our interceptors would look like, and yeah, and just sanity check me on this. It would be like odin.uberinternal.com/accounter, which seems fine. Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah, that seems completely fine. Yeah. So I also think stricter validation is fine because like if we realize we've messed up, we can just drop the validation. It's a lot harder to introduce validation in the future. We've done that a few times in K8 where we've introduced forward-looking validation, and it sucks because we have to run a conformance back compat on the existing objects forever.
Yeah. And also one issue with the path suffix was that there are a couple of options that we might be introducing, like an interceptor resource in the future, and we might want to use the same name as for example foo.example.com to basically pair the resource with the eviction request object. I still don't know like if we will do that, but the path would like can make it more difficult.
Yeah, we could also like fundamentally we were binding these eviction requests to pods through like initially we were using UID, right? But there was the whole conversation about yeah. Do you know what Tim's opinion on this is, or do you not have an opinion from him yet?
Yeah, like I am linking here discussion. We already like discussed this with him like for like a
Uh,
couple
Okay,
of
let's just
iterations
refresh our
already.
memories.
Yeah, so I guess like maybe we let's wait for Tim with this one. I gave them also the reasons about like the interceptor object because ultimately we might need like a late registration of interceptors,
Hmm.
and this like Wojtek had like a couple of remarks about like changing this through the pod API that this might not scale well. So we might add this like declaratively. So like an interceptor that would say like which pods like it is targeting, for example, like a label selector or something like that.
I will say though that if we make interceptor API objects, then that is such a big change and extension to what we've done that I think at that point we also gives us the ability to revisit the naming convention per se. But I don't have a good answer here. I do see Tim's point though about like if we shouldn't just diverge from label style strings without a strong reason. It shouldn't just be, well, maybe we'll do something, but maybe we won't.
Yeah.
That's a fair criticism, I'd say, from him.
Yeah,
Um,
I know. I'm still ambivalent about this topic. Yeah.
yeah, makes sense. I guess let's see what he thinks of the API PR. Uh, but yeah, I'm not strongly attached really to either approach per se. I don't. Does anyone
Okay.
else have any opinion here? Because I know I've talked a lot in this meeting so far.
Okay. I guess you are basically the first user, so it's good to hear the feedback
That
first
is
from
very
you.
true. Have we done successful interception? We have, right? We've done a prototype.
Yeah.
Yeah, in staging.
Okay, cool. So like if you don't have problem like with any of these, let's wait for Tim on this one. And yeah. So I guess like we basically have everything now and we can progress. Like once we have these two API bits resolved, we can progress with the code implementation.
Nice.
So yeah, as
Cool.
I said, like I have the PR open. It's still very work in progress. I am still missing a couple of validations and the whole eviction request object resource. But I will try to do that in the next couple of days, and then we can sync on the controller part and do
Mm.
next update next week.
Yeah. If you need any support on the API PR as well, we could probably. I mean, Johan, you probably have time, right? I know I'm volunteering you here, but you're nodding your head, which I think means you have time.
Yes. Yeah, like yeah, you can take a look already. So since you will be using it, or the controller will be using it, like if you see anything you would like to see changed, or yeah, just let
Yeah,
me know.
we'll do.
Okay, cool.
Cool. We go to the annual report.
Yeah. So I don't know if Ryan wants to take this first, or I should.
You can go ahead and click on it. I don't. We can just all
Okay.
look at it together.
So yeah. So Ryan opened our annual report for 2025. I just went through this. Don't see like anything important missing there. So unless you have something you would like to see in the report, just add a comment there. I added a couple of points for Ryan, but it should be quick to solve. So I guess we can drop the work in progress soon and can merge the report unless anybody has any issues there.
No, just to note, I've also skimmed it and I was completely happy with it. It's not been a very long life working group so far. So just to say I have skimmed it so that
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
All right. Then I guess for the plan, I'll resolve those comments, and then I think we can get it merged by the end of the week.
Yeah, I guess we can ping it was Sasha, I guess, who is
you. Yeah.
who's
Thank you,
overseeing
Ryan, for
our working
covering
group.
that. Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah,
Ryan, for
No
covering
problem.
that while we were working on eviction request. It was very helpful.
You got it.
yeah, thanks a lot. So do you want to go over to your topic?
Yeah, let me do let me have the screen from you.
Yep. Just a sec.
Yep.
Okay, you should be able to share.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so what I'll do first before we jump into discussion, I did work on a little POC and I wanted to show this because I think it's just to illustrate some of kind of what this would look like. So I'll show that. And so first is this project being a part of it. This was actually illustrated in the cup as something we wanted to do anyway. So it just kind of made sense to be part of this POC as a good visual. All this is I call it KSSD, which is Cuddle Server Side Drain Driver. And essentially what I've done is I've taken the concept in specialized lifecycle management, introduced it into like a fork, and then built a project that uses those APIs and does server side, does drain through just like the kubectl does, but does it on the server side. So let me show that. I'll show my terminal and so you should have a look at what this comes out to be. So this is the lifecycle transitions that I had. So if you remember, um, there's a little refreshers. That's the lifecycle transition is going to have a start and an end highlighted here. These are meant to be states that would make its way to the node. And we do that for observability reasons. And so we want to have each of these pairs, these state pairs, will be called and claimed, and then something will happen, like a driver will run and execute based on what we would like to happen. And so this case is so like I said, this is kubectl server side drain. So what we're doing is draining as a one lifecycle transition pair, and then the other one is that basically our exit. Like how do we return the node? And so I made another state transition pair. So the way this would look is if I do just look at the pods, I will see a driver that will exist, so KSSD, that I'm running in a kind cluster. And if I go to a pod, I look, there's be no pod. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little BusyBox pod, if I can find it. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just create this. Okay, so for the demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show how this driver would work. So I showed the lifecycle transition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the drain lifecycle transition. And so the way this would work, I just have to go to my README. So I'm just going to do this, and all this is going to do is going to create what's called a lifecycle event. So I'm going to just take a look and watch this. So this is going to be a lifecycle event, which is going to tell the driver, go and execute a drain. And so you can see I started in pending with no driver, nothing claimed, and eventually this will be claimed and we'll work on kubectl drain. And so again, this is this transition right here. And so if I go look at the nodes of the node, if I look at the pod, so actually we'll see there's the pod and it's being terminated. Actually, it might already be gone. Oh, it's still there. So it's being terminated. What's running is kubectl drain on inside of my driver, and it's actually going and removing this thing. And while this is going on, we can actually follow this on the node. Because a condition on the node that has a reason, and we can see the reason that gets populated. In this case, it will look like this. Okay, so the lifecycle event's gone, and you can see, so the start and the end transition is what we should see on the node. And so you can see actually right here. So you see drain complete makes it all the way to the node. And if we actually look at the pod again, it's gone. Okay, so that's very simple. All I've done is basically run kubectl drain from inside this controller that I showed right here that I name as this driver. That's exactly what's happening. Now, what I'll do is I'll just do the exit here, the exit criteria, which is we'll do the maintenance complete, because if we do the nodes, we'll see that it's still cordoned. So I'll do this. And if I follow this along, this lifecycle transition should show uncordoning. So let's see. Reason. We'll follow this by a watch. Oops. Oops, I can't do that. Okay, so here we go. So it's showing uncordoning. And what it will do eventually, the driver will go through and it will mark it as maintenance complete. There we go. So you saw is this right here, as these two states eventually made its way to conditions. And if you go to the node, we should see it's unimportant. There we go. Okay. So that's very simple. This is an example of two life cycle transitions and how they get populated. Like I showed those through those life cycle events. And then we did a drain, and then we did an uncordon, and it's all tracked through the node condition. Okay, pretty simple, but any questions about that, what I'm showing so far? Any comments about it?
Yeah, it looks great. Yeah. I don't know, like if you want to go through a couple of these things, or if you want to show the objects you created.
Yeah, I can do that. So let me quickly do. So this will probably make a little more sense when I go to the actual objects. And so here they are. This is the life cycle event that the first one that I created. So the thing is, with this life cycle event, it's pretty simple, right? So we'll have a name for it. The transition name is a reference to the life cycle transition, which is our start end pairs, our life cycle transition pairs, and then where it occurs. So this could be, so in this case, I've only got one node, so I'm targeting the single node that I'm going to run the drain on. And then the same goes for the exit criteria. Again, like it's going to be same thing. I'm going to reference the maintenance completed, and then we're going to reference the binding node. And then if I go to the lifecycle transition, you can see what these look like. Oops, oh, my copy paste is not working. Okay. So all this looks like is I have a field called all nodes. So what it's essentially this means is like we need to have a way to reference these objects to a node. So I looked at DRA. This is how actually this is done. Is that you can have several different ways to express this. You can have a field that has a single node that you name. You can have a label selector that matches several nodes, or you can have all nodes. And so I'm just saying here that this transition can be run on any node, and there'll be a driver on that node that's capable of performing that action. And the driver being the KSSD driver, and then I have a start and an end. And these were what you saw end up on the conditions on the node. And then you have 5 minutes to perform that action. And then this one will look.
So this SLA is like more of a progress deadline seconds, effectively.
It's not a progress deadline. It's a you have this time to fully complete your work. So it's not like a heartbeat. It's you need to complete this by this amount of time.
Yeah, But I'd say that's similar though to like how progress deadline is used on pods for termination, where if you don't fully complete and exit out your container, you will get killed after the progress deadline.
Okay, then I didn't understand progress deadline. Okay, then it is a progress deadline. Yeah, you have you need to complete by this amount of time, or what we do is the idea is that you would we would mark the object as we're no longer working on it. It's timed out.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, this is a very cool demo, by the way. It's just
Nice.
yes, but yes, yeah. Anyway, let's continue. Sorry.
No, thanks. I mean, I think this is very basic. I think what I'm showing, like this is a BusyBox pod, and I think like the point is that I wanted to get is really here. Um, Actually, I can let me get rid of the field selector here and just show the whole thing. So, I mean, this is just a condition, right? And the sort of the power of what I'm after is that if you were somebody who was doing drain, I could say you can look up this condition, which we have named as this type life cycle transition. So there's going to be one location that you can look to find out what is happening to this node. So there'll be a single field, and that's where everything will be tracked and what is occurring. And so if you're somebody who pays attention to nodes and what's happening to them, this would be where you can find any sort of transition. So this what the expectation is, like if you're doing drain, you're doing RMA, you're doing whatever it is that you need to do to these nodes, planned maintenance windows. This is where you would go and share the status. And the idea is that there would be an ecosystem of things around that would be listening to this and looking and doing things based off of what is observed here. So that's sort of the expectation, is we wanted to to enable that to grow. There's a question. Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, I think I like the simplicity of this of the condition, because if you have multiple projects, you need to have like the observability or discoverability mechanism. And on the other hand, like this, I think in the future, like we still need to look at how we can extend this status, because it might not suffice. So the condition is like you only have like a one message reason and type and like when it occurred. Like, do you see this like there's an option to be tracked in the lifecycle event?
Oh, so have like this status on the life cycle events.
Yeah, I mean like more detailed status. So this is like great that you can go to like the node object and you see the uh, like you have like a pairing between the like condition name and the name of the transition and the
Hmm.
event. But like if you need like to have more things, that I suppose that there will be like more things to track like during these
Yeah, no,
transitions.
I do think so. I think the life cycle event can expand. Like I showed, it is there's not much there. I mean, there's two fields, um, and there's only one status field. I do think there's more. There is room to expand. I'm keeping it simple. I do think like there's there is possibilities to expand it. I think like what we need is some more use cases on like some to influence that, right, in that direction. But I do think it's
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, I'm not saying like we should do it now. I'm just saying like we should keep that in mind, like
Yeah.
to have our options open. And I think like it's great to focus like on the discoverability part. And like from what we did right now with the eviction request, I see like we should also try to like prevent conflicts, or maybe uh, even like define some transitions that are like promoted by Kubernetes. For example, you would have like drain.kubernetes IO. You could have like multiple drivers for that. Because like if somebody defines this like transition and event and a driver in some other projects, like it still will be hard like to discover and reference these like conditions and events like between each other.
Yeah. So that is exactly what that is absolutely it would be awesome. I think that was one of the ideas is that we should almost, I mean, the word I use I think in the KEP is reserve. I don't know if we want to call it that, but we think eventually, like, I guess the way to think about it is like there's only so many things you can do to lifecycle a node, and everyone does drain and probably maintenance, and there's probably several of these things that we can probably agree on. I think what we're missing is that mechanism, like, so we can all, like where we can all agree. And that's like that would be the goal, is like, I think, like you said, there could be like a Kubernetes um, fully qualified name for drain, like Kubernetes.io drain/drain or something. And then there maybe is a driver for it. But someone else might come in and write their own driver um, that does something, some business logic or whatever, but responds to a drain. But we all know and agree, like, there's a drain event for a node, and there might be a bunch of different ways that works under the hood. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, keep going, keep going. I want to come in at the end of this with just some meta comments on this.
Well, go ahead. I mean, the only thing I was going to do is I'm going to go to the next topic. That was pretty much what I wanted to show for the demo.
Oh, okay, cool. What I want to bring up is the meta of how we're targeting this. I know we missed the boat on 136. I assume we want to target this for an alpha in 137, Ryan. I mean, how this seems to be the impression I'm getting. I know we've never written it down that we're targeting that. It's just
Yeah. So
we've
I
had it in
did
our group chat.
change. Yes, I did change it on the issue. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I did change on the issue to 137. I think that makes sense. I think really um what we need to do next is like this really needs to be socialized a bunch, and I've been trying to do that across a bunch of SIGs and getting this in front of as many people as possible. But I think with KubeCon coming up and the Maintainer Summit, I think this is will be really the next opportunity, or the next big opportunity, to really socialize this in front of as many people as we can. So that's why I built the POC, and I want to spend the next 4 weeks meeting as much as I can with some of the SIG heads and get a discussion going, so that when we meet in person, we have already some context and we can kind of, already be talking about some things that we would like to change about this for 137. How does that sound, Lucy? Does that
That makes
sound
a
like a
lot of
good idea?
sense, and we should be socializing this because I think outside of our group, very few people have actually engaged with this. Ryan, are you at KubeCon? I think Philip definitely is. I think you are. Correct. Yes, of
Yeah,
course you are. You're
I'll be there.
speaking. You're speaking. Of course you are. Yes, so maybe this is something we should be very explicit about socializing at the Maintainer Summit this year, in particular, and trying to get the word out that it's coming. I know we don't have a Maintainer Summit track talk, but that is fine because unconference, for example, exists and hallway track exists.
Yeah.
But maybe this should be a very deliberate part of our strategy, setting ourselves up for success in 137 after, and then still continue to execute on eviction request in 36.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. That's what I'm thinking. I'm aligned there. Yeah, we should definitely. I'm going to try to unconference, and we'll try and meet people in the hallway and talk about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Cool.
I think yeah, like that sounds like a good idea. Like we need to socialize it. And I think like the caps to me it makes sense like in general, but I think like we still need to iterate on that a lot. To coin like maybe more use cases or user stories there. So we have like a strong argument like why we need this feature.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It makes
like
sense. So like. Oh, sorry.
yeah, if I
Go ahead.
can just interrupt. So with the eviction request, I plan to bring this like I guess after the code freeze, plan to bring this to topic to cluster API folks, since they are doing also a drain and have like these issues the eviction request is solving. So I would like to try to propose have like a alpha feature for cluster API that uses eviction requests. And I think like cluster API itself has like a bunch of use cases and features like for your CAP as well. So I don't know like when you are comfortable of like bringing this to them, but I think it would be also a good idea.
Yeah, no, it is. I did so I did speak with them. It was only I saw it with Justin. I don't know his last name. Justin B. I think is his Nick. About this extensively actually. So it was, but so I've met with. I think the only groups, the only SIGs I haven't met with yet is SIG. I think SIG apps and SIG scheduling, um, and the architecture. I think those are like the three ones I haven't hit. Um, but
Yeah, but
I think
the
those are.
cluster API like are outside of the core Kubernetes, so they have uh, they are on different like schedule and have different ideas of what they want.
Yeah, oh, I meant sorry, I meant that I did speak to them about it and I presented SLM to them. And it was very interesting. We had a good discussion. Um but yeah, I think there's still a few more SIGs to go. So this is this is gonna be my next 4 weeks. So I'll be trying to get to
Yeah,
the last few
certainly,
SIGs.
certainly. Yeah, and I think like as you mentioned the uncordon feature, like when we were like looking at the non-maintenance stuff, like a lot of folks mentioned that. I think even here in the working group, we had conversations about how the cordon feature or the unschedulable feature or tains work, and that there is basically a contention for these like resources between different projects. So like the driver could basically synchronize this, the schedulability of the node, and like SIG scheduling could use that as well.
Yeah. No, that's along the lines of what I'm thinking is eventually. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking even too, like on the workload APIs, just like you're talking about with eviction, like we want to integrate with error eviction. We also want to integrate when we get to this workload API. How do we like deal with the scheduling, right? Like scheduling needs to be very precise of the workload API. If we have other maintenances that are planned that could possibly affect our scheduling of a workload API, that's like, a 50 node job, we maybe want to take one of those nodes into maintenance before we, go and schedule a workload on it because rescheduling that is expensive.
Yeah, I don't know how deep you want to dive into the scheduling and workload topic. I will leave that up to you. But as you know,
No, I don't
like
want to talk about it for a
there
little
are
bit. We're not
there are
ready yet for it.
yeah, there are
We'll
like
be here all
very
night.
yeah, like there are very like long and heavy discussions about these topics right now. Like with scheduling
Yeah.
has like multiple teams and people working on this, and like one of the reasons we decided to opt out with the eviction request to basically ignore the workloads where to like basically have like to not uh, be limited by their consensus what they want to do. And
Yeah.
so we basically postponed this to later. So like it's good to like think about these things, but like be very specific like what you want to include in the cap. So we are not bogged in like long conversations which we don't need to have.
Yeah, no, I'm totally aligned with you. I get the same sense. This is where I'm hoping like KubeCon, where we talked to like Wojciech and Dominic and others in the scheduling and John, when some of the on-site stuff goes on, maybe we'll get an opportunity to. We don't need to go like bog down the details, but more of like take the opportunity to say, hey, look, here are the projects that we're working on, and they're relevant to you guys. Like they're relevant to what's being developed and talked about. Maybe not immediately this second. We got other problems to solve first, but they probably will be very soon. So that's like to me, like I would say that's probably the most value we can get out of those discussions right now, at least in my opinion. Yeah. So anyway, I agree. So yeah, I think so anyway, the plan is to continue to socialize and target KubeCon and get some feedback there. I do want to go so we haven't had this discussion yet. It's been a while. But I feel like Philip, we talked about this in the past, or at least over Slack. But I wanted to talk about the design specifically about the kubelet approach versus a centralized controller. and I just wanted to go over at a high level um, what I'm thinking in the cap and see if we can come to any consensus or not. So so let me do a summary of this and how I look at this is um, the approach that I have in the cap is to use a driver, the driver approach, which is similar to the DRA approach. And that means that kubelet is going to be claiming these life cycle transitions, or life cycle events, sorry. And that means that there will be a driver that runs as a daemon set. So that would be the sort of one of the characteristics of this model. The alternative is that we can have a centralized controller. That centralized controller can run somewhere else, not as a daemon set, can run somewhere on the control plane, somewhere else. And it could be capable of reconciling these life cycle events and sort of carrying out the life cycle logic that I just showed, like with drain, for example. Um, and I think it's true. I think like both of them are true. Like we can do it. We can do it either way. And my current opinion is that with the kubelet approach, there are a bunch of pieces in place that enable us to solve this today. And even if we go with the kubelet approach, I think it's still possible, and I would still actually intend for people to still use the centralized controller approach. Um, and the only thing is that I think the only difference, or maybe the point of contention, is like, what should we develop in tree? And I think if we were to do the centralized controller approach in tree, I think it's a much bigger project, a much larger project that I feel like I'd have a hard time getting into 137. There's a bunch of things that we have to sort of re-implement that the kubelet does today in a separate controller, in a whole new controller. Um, Essentially the claiming mechanisms, sort of like the way that we sort of do identity and like see who owns what and control the flow of communication. That entire stack, how it would have to be re-implemented in another controller or library or something to be able to get something in tree. So that's my concern right now is that so that's why right now I'm still kind of thinking that we need to go with the kubelet approach for in tree and allow people to do the centralized controller approach. Like you could still do it. You would not be blocked. It's just they wouldn't be in tree. So I don't know how you feel about that, Philip.
Mm, yeah, I think like even like if you decide to go with the keyboard approach, like you still need to design the control approach to some extent. Either like you say this is it should be extensible and this is how we will do it later, or you say or edit like as a one of the follow-ups, or you need to add it at least to the alternatives section where you say, oh, we could do it like this, but we are not doing it for these reasons. So,
Mhm.
so I think like you need to explore this topic at least to some degree, like if you want this cap to go through, and even when you like present this in front of like Signode and other like folks interested in this.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. I think I what you're saying makes sense. I just we should explore it a bit more. At least, yeah. I,
Yeah. No, I think it's open for discussion. I think that makes sense. It's an alternative. Like I said, it's totally a valid one. So I think we should discuss it.
And like I mentioned like in the cap some like the disadvantages of this approach. Like we need to cover this in the cap like to show like the options basically. And uh, like I still know how the API should look like, but I would not be so afraid of like if we manage to like push the vision request through, like even if we have a bit heavier like API driven approach, I think like we could still like design it like in timely manner. But as we said, like this needs to be explored. So like we have to see where we get with this.
Yeah. Let me see where I get in the next 4 weeks with like I said, I'm my plan is to, besides going to Keps, I mean, I'm just going to email some of those heads and try to do one-on-ones with them, and like Dawn and probably Kevin, um, and several others to basically tease out these details and see if like we can get some context on and align on some context, and then perhaps we'll have some more in-depth discussions in person.
Yeah, and also like in the end, like this will be mostly like Signode, like deciding like
Mm.
what's the final approach should be. So like if you, like we said, like said this before, the cap freeze, that we need to bring this to Signode for evaluation, and but they were busy because of the cap freeze. So now it should be better. But I think like the like Signode will basically have like similar questions like we are talking about right now. Like they will want to see the alternatives and the reasons why we want to do this. And they will, like if we want to introduce this like to the kubelet, they will like they will have the burden of maintaining this code. So like if you say this will be like totally like separate controller or something, it will have much less maintenance burden. But they have to see that it is worth for them to have it in their
Yeah,
code tree.
makes sense. Okay. All right. So I mean, I guess then with so if Signode's wrapping up, I've been trying to like follow along a little bit what Signode's been up to, but if they're starting to wrap up some of the kept work, I can start stamping out time periods to go over this in detail. This is probably going to be a multi-week thing though, so we'll probably time box it. We're going to have to do this over the next several weeks, but um, yeah, let's see.
Yeah, sure, and we can like sync asynchronously, like if you need
Yeah,
help or like opinions about some things, we can.
100%. I think to me, when I think about this positioning within the SIG, this is a great part of the forward momentum in that we get eviction request, and that is a bit later stage than this. But then this, we need to keep the momentum strong on this because then we can get this into the next cycle. Yeah, but yeah, so this is quite important to me right now. But yes, it's very cool demo as well. We should show that in the room at KubeCon.
Yeah, like I agree. Like the demo was great. It was, you could see like why we are doing this.
Yes.
And like
The,
I just want to add, like we as Lucy said, like I think there will be like intersection like between eviction request and also your SLM and graceful node shutdown, because these things like they want to solve the GNS, and I think like we can showcase that like with some like potential other caps.
it's true. I could easily show that kubelet amnesia bug, and I could easily show once you have a like a working. I don't know how far along your PR is, but once you have a working set of APIs and stuff, I could easily show an interceptor in there too. Um, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good plan. Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Yeah,
still
let's see what
a
happens.
ton of work going.
Yeah, no,
yep.
let's see what happens over the next 4 weeks. I think that's sort of like where our heads are all at. Is that the next 4 weeks is going to be busy, and let's see how far we get going
Yes.
into KubeCon.
A lot of deadlines. Always is this time of year. All right. Cool. I will see you folks next week, but then we can just talk async as well whenever we need to on Slack.
Yeah, thanks a
Awesome.
lot for the sync.
All right. See you. Have a good one.
Thanks,
You
everybody.
too. Bye.
Bye.